Hello and welcome to this video, guys. In this video I want to talk about this camera right here. This is the Fujifilm GFX 50S2, and as you can see from the title, I've owned this camera now for 2 weeks at the time of recording. By the time this video goes live, I would have owned it for 3 weeks. And I just want to talk about my first impressions of the camera, share why I picked this camera in particular, and share some of the photos that I've taken with it within the first 2 weeks of my ownership. So the first thing that I want to talk about is actually the camera and the setup that I have. So obviously I have the Fujifilm GFX 50S2, I have the 35-70, and then right here I have the Pentax 50mm f2. I believe this is the SMC 50mm f2, but surprisingly it almost entirely covers the full sensor. There's a bit of vignetting, but it's not like a hard dark vignette. It's just like slight darkening in the corner, so it's very easily correctable. So I'm thinking about making like a full-on dedicated video about this lens. So if you are interested in that, leave a comment, and if there's enough interest, then yeah, I'll make a full video about that. So this is going to be a pretty quick video. I just want to introduce the camera to my channel and just, like I mentioned in the intro, just quickly talk about why I chose this. And the first thing that I want to talk about is or the first reason why I chose this camera was I just wanted to get back into the 50 megapixel sensor that Fuji used in the 50S and is used in the 50S2. So a little over a year ago, I got rid of my 50S. I used to own a GFX 50S Mark I, that was the first one, and I absolutely loved this sensor in that camera. It's kind of funny, the reason why I got rid of that camera is because I wanted more of a hybrid camera, one that could take, you know, obviously amazing photos like this one can, but also good video. And I was scrolling through Facebook Marketplace one time, and I saw some guy who had a Leica M240 for sale. I asked if he would take the trade for the Fujifilm GFX 50S kit that I had. He said yes, and that's how I got an M240. Had that for a couple months, sold it because it was in fact not a hybrid camera. And you know, fast forward a couple months, I have a GFX 50S2 now, and I could not be happier. The sensor in this camera just responds to the way that I edit my photos, particularly with a tone curve, so well. You know, I've experimented with other cameras, and not to say that other cameras do a bad job, it's just the way that I like editing my photos. The 50 megapixel sensor from this camera and the original 50S and the 50R just respond the way that I want them to respond, and they do what I want them to do, and they react really well to the way that I edit my photos. So that was the main reason why I wanted to get back into the sensors, because it's by far my favorite sensor I've ever used across all the digital cameras that I've owned. This one isn't as big, but just the form factor, you know, the 50S was pretty bulky, and there's like a large hump in the back for some reason, and it was just like kind of a very large camera, a little clunky of a design. And so Fujifilm did a really good job with this camera, just modernizing the whole feel and just making it a much more like aesthetically pleasing camera in my mind. And the next, and in my opinion, the biggest reason why I wanted this camera over, you know, a 50S or 50R, because, you know, if I had just gotten the OG 50S, I could have saved some money. The 50Rs are probably, I mean, they might be a little bit cheaper than what you can get these for, but yeah, like, had I got the 50S, the OG, I could have saved some money. But it's missing one major feature, and that's the biggest reason why I wanted the 50S Mark II, and that's IBIS. That's in-body image stabilization. There are a couple shots that I have with this lens right here that I shot at like 1/50th of a second, 1/60th of a second, and the images looked great. With my OG 50S, I had the Mitacon 65mm f1.4, and I just really couldn't handhold that camera, or I really couldn't handhold that lens really anywhere lower than 1/125th of a second without, you know, introducing some sort of micro jitters or micro shakes. And so having the in-body image stabilization makes me feel a lot more confident about, you know, getting handheld images, and particularly getting images when my shutter speed is under 1/125th of a second. You know, there were times in the past that I had to crank up the ISO on my OG 50S just to make sure that I wasn't getting a blurry image. So having in-body image stabilization was, like I said, the biggest reason why I wanted the 50S2. Now, I don't really have many cons for the camera. I think it's amazing. But one thing that I will say that I think is a downgrade compared to the original 50S is the viewfinder. It's not as good. The original 50S is, I mean, it's for sure, without a doubt, the best viewfinder I've ever looked through, or the best electronic viewfinder that I've ever looked through. Just putting your eye to it, it felt really, really big, really, really expansive, and really clear. Not to say that this is a bad viewfinder by any means, but just putting your eye to it, it's a little bit smaller, and the resolution doesn't really seem to be as high as the original 50S. Granted, like I said, it's still not a bad viewfinder by any means. It's just the 50S definitely spoiled me, and every other digital camera that I've used after the 50S just has never really compared to how good that viewfinder was. So yeah, that is the one con for me as of right now. I don't really suspect that I'll find many more cons because, like I said, I think the camera is absolutely wonderful. But yeah, that is definitely the one and only con that I have so far with the camera. Oh, one thing I didn't mention is the strap that I have. I don't even know where it's from. I've bought, and I have so many random film cameras, and so I don't even know which one this came with, but it's just some old leather strap from a film camera. I kind of like cycle it between this camera and other cameras. Whichever one I'm taking out with me, I always put this one on, or I put the strap on, because it's my favorite camera strap that I own. It's really small, and I'm someone that likes wearing a camera strap just like on my, on one shoulder, so it's really nice to be able to pull it up, take a picture, and put it down. So that is the strap. Couldn't tell you where it's from, but it is really nice. And on that note, I think I'm gonna just start winding down the video. I know it was a short video, but like I mentioned, I just wanted to introduce the camera to the channel and quickly talk about my first impressions of it, and how excited I am to be back with the 50 megapixel sensor that Fujifilm uses in their cameras. The week after this video goes live, I'm going on a camping trip. I'll be bringing this camera and for sure this lens. And my plan is to just take a bunch of landscapes and just generally take a lot of pictures of that entire weekend. So expect a video to come out in the next few weeks about that trip and about those photos. And yeah, I think that's where I'm going to end the video. If you guys enjoyed it, please consider leaving a like or subscribing to the channel. I'll leave my Instagram and my website in the description below if you want to check out more of my work. And yeah, thank you guys again, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.